Our top story this morning, market regulator SEBI yesterday notified a new asset class between PMS or Portfolio Management Services and mutual funds and referred to it as Specialized Investment Fund or SIF. Now this SIF asset class will accept investments of 10 lakh rupees or more from investors across all investment categories. Let's understand this in detail with Kranthi Bathini, who joins us this morning. Kranthi, good morning. Lovely having you back here on News 9 Live. Help us understand what is SIF. We know SIP. What is SIF and how is this likely to impact your life and mine?
Good morning, Karthik. Pleasure to interact with you always. From SIP, we are moving towards SIF. After the humongous participation from the retail investors in the last few years, number of investors in India has tremendously gone up unprecedentedly, and the numbers have keep on piling up. So there is a need of different kind of products for the requirements of the investors. One is, and the risk appetite of the investors also have been going up, and we witnessed the kind of retail participation, especially in the F&O market is concerned, where the regulators are quite concerned. So one hand, for the reach of every investors in India, we have mutual funds, and they have gained so much popularity. And look at the number of portfolios and number of the assets under management that has grown up drastically in the past 25 years. And the PMS also last few years have gained its popularity among the high net worth individuals. So one is for the retail as well as HNI investors, we have mutual funds which gain the popularity in India. The other hand, for the ultra HNI and the investors who can afford a specialized portfolio management services, PMS, above 50 lakh bracket. The PMS products are there. Earlier, I believe 5-6 years back,
right,
the PMS was available for the investment of 10 lakhs also.
Right.
But SEBI has restricted the PMS entry level to 50 lakhs. So there is a need for a specialized product for these kind of investors who can afford between the range of 10 to 25, this kind of range.
Right.
They don't have any specialized product. So SEBI has come up with a notification that there is a need for a kind of a requirement for these kind of specialized investment fund, which caters to the needs of the investors who are little bit risk appetite is very high, are moderate. For those kind of investors, these kind of funds are suitable.
Right.
Normally, in a typical mutual fund, what happens is the risk taking ability of a fund manager is limited. So these kind of funds, the fund house or the fund objective can be a little bit aggressive in terms of picking up the stocks, and having derivative products also can be included.
Right. So, Kranthi, just for more clarity on this, it's a very interesting, category which has been introduced by SEBI now. I want to understand, as a mutual fund investor, I can easily flock on to any of these beautiful fintech companies and their apps and purchase these mutual funds myself. However, for a PMS service, there is constant information and intervention of the portfolio manager, and it's a very, very specialized, very individualized sort of a service that I get. Now, in between the mutual fund and the PMS, this new SIF category, is this going to be very individualized, very specialized, or are there going to be AMCs who will roll out SIF products just like they roll out MFs? And hence, as an investor, how do I go and participate in this investment class?
Karthik, with respect to the SIF is concerned, it's by and large works like a mutual fund, but the kind of risk profile or risk taking the fund objectives can be different when compared to the mutual funds are concerned. So the one thing is the objective can be changed, whereas in a mutual fund you can start with the 500 rupees. That's the minimum level one can start a mutual fund,
right,
whereas in SIF the entry level is
it'll be 10 lakh rupees.
Yeah.
But can I buy these SIFs off the shelf digitally or physically, or like a PMS, there is going to be somebody assigned who is going to help me make these investments?
By and large, it can be assigned to any kind of mutual fund distribution or fintech, because to gain the popularity, the fintech involvement or the distribution network should be quite strong. So by and large, it works like a mutual fund, but the risk profiling the fund objectives and the stock picking strategy can be by and large more aggressive when compared to the regular mutual fund process is concerned.
All right, Kranthi, stay with us. Very interesting development from SEBI, but let's move on to the news coming in on the macroeconomic front. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman assured the Lok Sabha yesterday, Tuesday, December the 17th, that the recent slowdown in India's GDP growth for the second quarter of this fiscal year FY25 is just a temporary blip and that growth will pick up in coming quarters. Now, responding to a discussion on the supplementary demands for grants first batch 2024-25, FM said that the drop in the GDP growth in the second quarter has to be understood in a broader context. She also highlighted that government capex has grown by 6.7% year-on-year, indicating continued investment in infrastructure. Now, with these developments, she expressed optimism about improved economic performance in coming quarters. Kranthi, great reassurance coming from Finance Minister, and she says that Q2 was a temporary blip. But going forward, if growth is actually going to offset the slowdown in Q2, where is that growth going to come from?
One thing I think the first half of the year, we had the general election, and also the second half, what we witnessed was there was erratic monsoons, and some areas there were floods, some areas there were high temperatures. So the growth has been disturbed. The domestic consumption has taken a toll. And also with respect to the government spending with the budgetary allocations are concerned, they could able to meet the 65% of the budgetary allocation with respect to the government spending is concerned. So the capex has been quite at a slow pace with respect to the first half of the year is concerned. So that has what we witnessed is softening of the growth and also the IIP numbers. Everywhere we witnessed some kind of softening. So second half, the government has been pushing the pedal hardly to accelerate the pace of the growth. So that's where the assurance and the reiteration is coming from the finance minister. And as we entering into the new calendar year, we are getting into the full-fledged budget for the coming new year.
Right.
So what we can sense is there is a faster pace of capex is going to go up, and also the FDA is going to go up, and also on the back of that, in the parliament we are witnessing a hard discussion of one nation and one poll.
One election, yeah.
that can be coming early. If that bill get passed, the government has to have very less time in their hand. So the pace of growth can be accelerated. The reforms agenda can be taken at a faster pace. So that can accelerate the growth pace at this point of time. That's where the finance minister is giving the assurance.
Right. Is it fair to assume, Kranthi, that if the government wants a good report card on GDP growth, then the heavy lifting will actually be done by the government itself, and we should expect more capex investments by the government, because we still live in a high interest rate cycle, and that is unlikely to revise downwards until budget 2025 that you just alluded to.
Absolutely, Karthik. You made it a point. Okay, we were coming through a very tight monetary policy, and with the Fed rate decision in the next 24 hours, RBI is compelled to, with the new RBI governor, we need to see what kind of decisions the RBI is going to take under the new RBI governor. So that will give some kind of extra cushion to the growth.
Right. Okay, stay with us, Kranthi. We'll just, stay on this for a little longer, because the government's concerns over slower economic growth may continue even in the year 2025-26, although inflation is likely to soften. Now, Union Budget 2025-26, according to some people, may peg nominal GDP growth in the range of 10% to 10.5%. Remember, these are media reports coming in, source-based media reports, which News9 hasn't been able to independently verify just as yet. But on the other side, there is a little bit of a conundrum, Kranthi, and this is with respect to the number of tax filers. Now, again, data that came out in the parliament yesterday, and Pankaj Chaudhary, MOS Finance, in fact, mentioned this to parliament, that India has witnessed an income tax return filing growth between the last year and which is 2022-23 and financial year 23-24, with in the new year 8.09 crore returns submitted as compared to 7.4 crore returns the previous year. But even with this increased 8.09 crore taxpayers, it represents only 6.68% of the population, which means less than 7 out of every 100 people living in India are actually paying taxes. Now, we were talking about the budget earlier, Kranthi. How does the budget 2025 and Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman ensure that this tax net widens so that our fiscal deficit concerns also get offset?
One thing, Karthik, of course, the GST regime has increased the strong revenue pool for the government.
All right.
So while coming to the direct taxes are concerned, uh, the the slab has been widened. Okay, right now, people who have around 7.5 lakhs income, okay, they are not comes under the tax net. Of course, they are liable to file the tax filing. So the awareness has been going up, but we are at a faster pace. As you rightly mentioned, just 7% of the population of the country are filing the returns. But because of the awareness, because of the fintech, and also the digitalization that's taking place, of course, we started with a slow place of pace of filing the returns, but expect it to take off because of the disposable incomes are going up. Many of the new youngsters have been joining to the workforce. So the numbers are expected to go up. There is a lot of headroom for these numbers, Karthik, definitely. But we are at a slower pace. Definitely, I can expect the pace of growth is expected to accelerate in the coming years.
Right, fingers
Of course,
crossed on that one, Kranthi.
we have made a progress from 2% to 7%. So that are also important things to ponder upon that.
Yeah, I mean, the journalist in me cannot refrain from asking that with this low number of taxpayers, just 7% or so, is there a larger systemic problems when it comes to jobs and job creation and the salaries that people draw, at least in their early jobs, which results in zero tax filing as well. But anyway, let's stay on to the tax story. There's an update that the Income Tax Department is reaching out to taxpayers and non-filers via an SMS and email campaign aimed at addressing mismatches between reported transactions in the annual information statement and their income tax returns for FY 23-24 and FY 21-22. This campaign is set to encourage filings, revised or belated ITRs, and allows taxpayers to provide feedback on their AIS. Let's move on, Kranthi. I want to bring you in on one more story that we are tracking this morning, and this is by way of EV sales. Well, the number of electric vehicle sales in India sold during this financial year has increased by 25% compared to the same months in the previous financial year. I'm talking about the months of 1st April to 30th November 2024. A total of 13.06 lakh electric vehicles, mostly buses and two-wheelers, were registered in the country, which is about 25.64% higher than just about a million or 10.39 lakh EVs registered during the same April to November period last year. Now, of course, we have the schemes of PLI for batteries, we have the PLI for energy storage and also auto components. But Kranthi, this low base of just 10 million growing at 25%, is it nearly enough for India to meet its 30 at 30 target of 30% EVs by the year 2030? Are we on track?
Karthik, we are at this very early phase of electric vehicle emergencies concern. Still the buyers, there is a dichotomy around them, whether to go for an ICE engine or whether to go for an electric engine. That's what the dichotomy is still there. But there are some investors who want to be on an affordable class. They are experimenting, still at a very experimental stage with respect to the EV, purchasing one more additional vehicle as a EV vehicle people are considering. Primarily, we don't have a robust charging network at this point of time, but the government is planning to spend around, both in the public and private partnership, around $2 billion, especially on the charging infrastructure is concerned in the next 5 years. That's what the plan. So we are at a very starting phase. We had the FAME, which is faster adoption of mobility in electric vehicle. They
Right.
have been giving the incentives, so that has came to a standstill at this point of time. So some kind of, and also the entry levels for these EV cars. India is normally a entry level kind of a market.
Right.
So if you have to see the volume growth, definitely we need to have a affordable EV vehicle. That's where the market is waiting, and we have only three players at this point of time. One is the Tata Motors, Mahindra, and Hyundai Motors, which have a high-end electric vehicles.
Right.
But Maruti, they have not ventured. They are still in the progress of launching a EV vehicles for India. So most
Right.
probably the volumes comes from Maruti. Once Maruti get into this game, we can see some kind of volume growth with respect to the electric
That's right.
vehicles are concerned. So still we are at a pace of a starting phase for the electric vehicle. Okay,
Right.
we need to closely observe the developments in this space. One is the infrastructure. The second one is the how the passenger utility game is going to be. By and large, as you rightly mentioned, one is this kind of growth has come with respect to the buses are concerned because of state government policies and some municipalities. They're implementing, some corporations are implementing the public transport system has to be in the electric vehicles. That's where the growth of numbers have been coming. But we
Right.
need to see further momentum with respect to the EV electric passenger vehicles are concerned. We are
Right.
still at a starting phase. There need to be a lot of infrastructure spends has to be improved along the highways to meet these requirements.